Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, there are these iconic stories we think we know inside out. Take Jacob meeting Rachel at the well. It's this image, right? Painted, written about, often seen as the ultimate love at first sight moment.
Absolutely. It's deeply embedded in Western culture as this pinnacle of romance.
But what if there's more to it? What if it's also a window into something? Well, something quite different.
That's exactly what we're exploring today. We're diving into Sir James George Frazer's folklore in the Old Testament, specifically Part 2, Chapter 5.
Right. Frazer had this incredible knack for seeing connections across cultures, looking at folklore and ancient texts to understand universal human practices.
He really did. So our mission, if you will, is twofold. First, we'll look at how that biblical scene actually reflects the nitty-gritty of ancient pastoral life.
Okay.
And then we'll take a perhaps surprising journey across the globe to see how something as basic as tears can be, well, a deeply ingrained social custom, not just spontaneous emotion.
Fascinating. So let's start with that scene. Frazer really sets it up for us. Jacob's journeying, he's feeling good after this vision of angels.
Yeah, heading to the land of the children of the East.
And it's not a city scene. Frazer emphasizes the pastoral life. Think green pastures, maybe on the edge of the desert. It's quiet.
Mm-hmm. Sheep waiting by a well. He even mentions it's a summer morning before it gets unbearably hot.
And this is where Jacob changes, isn't it? Frazer talks about his usually hard, mercenary character just melting.
Right. Into something like tenderness, he feels this impulse of love, almost of chivalry.
And he acts on it, runs to the well, rolls away this heavy stone, which we'll get back to, and waters Rachel's sheep.
A significant act. And then the kiss and the weeping.
Yeah, the weeping. Frazer calls it the one brief hour of poetry and romance in a prosaic and even sordid life. It really stands out.
It does. But here's Frazer's crucial point. This beautiful scene. He argues it's painted from the life. It wasn't just imagination.
So this kind of thing actually happened.
According to Frazer, yes. He says scenes very much like it may be witnessed in modern Palestine to this day, or at least in his day.
Wow.
Think about it. Hot climate, summer, the grass or herbage gets dry. Watering the flocks daily isn't optional, it's essential. Usually done around noon.
Okay, so the well is central. What were these wells like?
Often they were cisterns, maybe dug out in the open country, sometimes in old, forgotten gardens. And the key detail, the mouth was covered.
With the stone, like in the story.
Exactly. A large stone or pile of stone, sometimes a huge circular block. This was partly security to stop water theft.
Makes sense, water's precious.
And partly safety to keep animals from falling in. Some covers were apparently like stoppers, so smooth and heavy you couldn't easily lift them alone.
So Jacob moving the stone wasn't just symbolic, it was actual hard work.
Precisely. It showed strength and helpfulness.
And Frazer paints this picture of midday. All the different flocks and shepherds converging on the well.
Yeah, patiently awaiting their turn. It's a real social hub.
Which suddenly makes sense of those biblical lines, like in the Song of Solomon. Tell me where thou makest thy flock to rest at noon.
Exactly. Or Psalm 23, he leadeth me beside the still waters. It grounds these poetic texts in the practical realities of shepherd life.
And the importance of water went beyond just drinking for the flocks.
Right, absolutely. Every drop counted. Frazer notes how every spring, however small, is utilized to the utmost for irrigating gardens.
Terraced gardens.
Often, yeah. Water flowing down terraces, creating these pockets of brilliant green gardens and fruit-laden trees right next to barren hillsides. Water rights were incredibly valuable.
It paints such a vivid picture. And the wells themselves. The details Frazer includes are amazing.
Like the buckets. Leathern buckets or earthenware pitchers.
And the well sides being worn into grooves by the ropes over centuries.
Yeah, imagine that. Generations drawing water. And the stone troughs for the animals, sometimes propped up on bits of old marble columns.
Recycling ancient history for daily use.
Kind of, yeah. Frazer found the whole scene animated and pleasing, like stepping back into the patriarchal age. Especially at dawn, he says, with camels coming in.
And it wasn't just men doing this work, right? You mentioned women.
That's a key point Frazer makes. Just like in Jacob's time, in modern times, again, Frazer's era, it was often shepherd women who drive the flocks to the wells.
Really?
Yeah, he saw in northern Syria the Negev. Among some Sinai Arabs, he notes, unmarried girls had the exclusive duty of pasturing cattle.
And they weren't delicate flowers, I gather.
Not at all. Described as hardy as the men, even running barefoot over sharp rocks, it really underscores the vital role of women in that economy.
Okay, so we have this rich, detailed picture of life around the well. But now, let's get back to Jacob weeping.
It seems like a natural reaction, right? Overcome with emotion, maybe relief, love.
That's the standard interpretation, and Frazer acknowledged that commentators are often a bit puzzled, but tend to lean towards pure emotion.
But Frazer throws a curveball. He does. He suggests, based on studying other cultures, that maybe, just maybe, Jacob's tears weren't entirely spontaneous emotion.
What else could they be?
A convention. He says, among not a few races, weeping is a conventional mode of greeting strangers or friends, especially after a long time apart. It could be a formality.
Like a handshake, but with tears.
Sort of, yeah. A ritualized expression. He does distinguish this from, say, Joseph weeping when he reveals himself to his brothers, or David and Jonathan's tears. Those he thinks were likely natural and deeply felt.
Okay, so he's not saying all biblical tears are ritual.
No, but he uses those other examples to highlight the possibility that Jacob's tears at the well might fit a different pattern, a customary one.
So where else do we see this kind of conventional weeping? Frazer must have examples.
Oh, does he ever? The most striking, perhaps, are the Maoris of New Zealand. For them, showing emotion, real or artificial, was apparently crucial for good breeding.
Artificial emotion, how does that work?
Well, the ritual he describes sounds intense. It could start subtly, an ogling glance, a whimper, then tears welling up,
Okay.
then a wry face, clinging, crying outright, and then it escalates, sometimes using a flint to draw blood from their face and arms while they roar most outrageously.
Wow, that sounds painful and dramatic.
Yeah.
Smothering the guest in kisses, tears, and blood, as Frazer puts it.
Exactly. And the really mind-bending part is what Frazer calls the cant of affection. The idea that it was often performed emotion.
Before?
Yeah, he says Marys could command tears to appear basically on cue and stop just as quickly when told.
You're kidding.
Nope. He shares this amazing anecdote about two women in the middle of this tearful greeting who just paused, said they needed to put food in the oven, and promised to finish crying later.
That's unbelievable. We'll finish crying later.
Apparently so.
This-
Asking, shan't it be so? Shan't it be so? Frazer quotes someone saying, a New Zealander's love is all outside. It is in his eyes and his mouth. It suggests a very different understanding of displaying emotion.
Okay, that's wild. Any other Maori examples?
Yeah, there's the hangi. Captain Dillon described it touching noses and shedding tears. He wasn't always feeling it, so he'd just hold a handkerchief to his eyes and make howling noises.
Faking the tears.
Essentially, yeah. And it worked. Interestingly, the hangi was defined as a smelling, and it could apparently even reconcile enemies.
So this weeping greeting wasn't just a Maori thing.
Not at all. Frazer found parallels elsewhere. The Andaman Islanders, for instance. Their greeting, weeping after an absence, was apparently indistinguishable from how they mourned the dead.
So the line between joy and sorrow blurs in the ritual.
It seems so. In parts of India, women would weep and wail loudly when relatives met, recounting events. There was even etiquette about who stopped crying first.
Wow, and the Americas.
Yep. Among the Tupi in South America, women wept to welcome strangers who were expected to weep back or at least look sad. The Lenguas apparently considered it an insult not to shed tears before speaking.
An insult not to cry.
Seems so. And North America, too, tribes weeping for half an hour before talking, explorers getting utterly confused thinking it was grief.
I can imagine.
Nicolas Perrault, a French explorer, had this rather visceral experience with the Sioux and Ayos. They wept all over him, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, beslobbered him with the filth which exuded from their mouths and their noses, shrieking and howling. A French historian noted, never in the world were seen such people for weeping.
Okay, so weeping as a greeting is a documented cross-cultural thing. But why? Why these intense, sometimes disgusting, as Frazer puts it, rituals?
This is where Frazer offers a deeper interpretation. He suggests these acts weren't just symbolic, they might have been intended to create a real physical connection, a corporeal as well as a spiritual union.
How so? By sharing tears and other bodily fluids?
Potentially, yes, by literally joining parts of their body to his, as Frazer theorizes.
That's a confronting idea.
Yeah.
Does he have examples beyond tears?
He does. He brings up the Churas, a group from the Punjab. Their initiation ritual is quite something. The candidate sits in a pit under a sort of cot, a sharpai. Others bathe above him, spitting and clearing their noses so everything falls on him.
Right. Okay. That sounds unpleasant.
Definitely. But Frazer argues it's not about cleansing the initiate. It's the opposite. It's about dirtying him with the dirt of his future colleagues, sinking him to their level, making him physically one of them.
So incorporating him through shared effluvia.
Essentially, yes. It connects to Frazer's broader ideas about contagious magic, the power of things once connected, and specifically the ritual use of spittle.
Spittle as a bond.
Exactly. Among the Baluba of the Congo, sorcerers spat into a brew that initiates had to drink. The logic: if you've drunk something of ourselves, you can't harm us with magic.
Okay, the sort of magical inoculation.
Kind of, and it extends to agreements. The Wachaga in East Africa would spit into each other's mouths or a shared cup to seal a deal.
Into each other's mouths, wow.
Yeah. Believing the spittle guarantees the agreement. The Nandis use spitting too for peace treaties, marriage contracts, sales, even blessings.
Blessings, how?
Old people might spit on children for good fortune. A dying elder might spit into a boy's hand as a final blessing or farewell.
That completely reframes spitting. Among the Maasai, Frazer says spitting at someone was a compliment.
A very great compliment, yes. They'd even spit on their hands before shaking yours. It's about sharing something vital, something personal, to establish trust and connection.
Incredible. From Jacob's tears at the well, which we see as pure romance,
Right, that romantic ideal.
to this global tour of ritual, weeping, spitting, and bodily union as ways of connecting. Frazer really makes you look at familiar things differently.
He absolutely does. He peels back the layers of custom and forces us to question our assumptions about what's natural human behavior.
It leads to his final reflection, doesn't it? About tears and laughter.
Yes, that beautiful quote. The springs of tears and laughter, we are told, lie not far apart, yet they remain enveloped in a mystery more baffling than that which so long shrouded the sources of the Nile.
And the challenge he leaves us with.
That ultimately, it is easier for man to ascertain the facts and operations of external nature than to understand himself. We remain, in many ways, a mystery to ourselves.
So thinking about all this,
Yeah.
the ritual tears, the spit-sealed agreements, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What about our own greetings? Our handshakes, our hugs, maybe even just a nod. Could they carry deeper, older meanings we don't even think about?
Yeah.
How much of what feels like our spontaneous emotional response is actually shaped by unspoken social rules, these echoes of ancient custom?
That's the provocative thought, isn't it? How much are we performing convention, even when we think we're just being ourselves?
Something definitely to mull over. Join us next time for another deep dive.